The tide licked at the rusted walls of our shack, whispering in a language I couldn't understand. Synthonic. Everyone spoke it here. Everyone except me. From the moment the floodwaters claimed California's coast, the settlements were rebuilt on stilts and scavenged platforms. People traded in food rations and battery packs, but the real currency was language. Fluency in Synthonic, the AI-generated tongue that bound all districts to the Nexus. Without it, you were less than poor. You were invisible. I adjusted the seal on our door, but the salt water still found ways to creep in, pooling at my boots. My hands stung from the brine. "Sarah!" Mrs. Hart from next door shouted in Synthonic. The words flowed fast and sharp, machine smooth. My implant couldn't translate. It was busted, like everything else we owned. I waved awkwardly. She frowned, muttered something about mute girl, in a tone I didn't need a translator for, and turned away. Inside, the air smelled of rust and algae. The walls were patched with mismatched metal sheets, most scavenged by Mom before she didn't come back. I sank onto the cot, the springs squealing under me. The silence pressed in. That's when I saw it, a small black case wedged between the bed frame and the wall. I didn't remember putting it there. My fingers trembled as I pulled it free. The latch was stiff with corrosion, but it clicked open, revealing a sleek, palm-sized device. Not scavenged tech. This was pre-flood, clean lines, matte finish, a single silver circle in the middle. The circle pulsed. "Hello, Sarah," a voice said, soft and human. My heart lurched. Mom's voice. I gripped the device so tightly my knuckles ached. "Mom?" The projection shimmered above the device, a flickering hologram of her face. Older than in my memories, hair pulled back, eyes fierce. She looked right at me. "If you're hearing this," she began, "then I'm gone. You need to listen. Words are freedom. Don't forget that. The Nexus will tell you otherwise. They'll say one language keeps us safe. They're wrong." I wanted to reach into the projection, hold her, but my hands passed through empty light. "Inside this device is a learning module," she continued. "It can teach you Synthonic, but more than that, it holds the key to languages they've tried to erase. Protect it. Hide it. And Sarah, trust carefully." The projection faded, leaving me staring at my reflection in the dark screen. My pulse hammered in my ears. The key to languages they've tried to erase. A knock rattled the door. I shoved the device into my coat pocket just as Ethan slipped inside. "You missed ration distribution," he said, tossing me a pack of nutrient bars. His hair was damp, his jacket reeking of salt and motor oil. "Caleb's crew doesn't like when you skip." I had things to do. He studied me, his gaze flicking to my coat pocket. "What things?" "None of your business." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his wet hair. "Sarah, you can't keep avoiding Synthonic. You're making yourself a target. Caleb's already—" He stopped, jaw tightening. "Already what?" "Never mind." He looked away, but the flicker of guilt in his eyes was impossible to miss. I turned toward the small window. Beyond the settlement's edge, the ocean stretched in dark, restless waves. Somewhere out there, the Nexus towers blinked faintly on the horizon, their lights like distant stars. The device in my pocket felt heavier than steel. That night, I couldn't sleep. The tide kept murmuring outside, its voice almost like Synthonic but older, wilder. I lay there listening, wondering if the ocean, too, carried a language no one had bothered to translate. When the first pale light crept over the water, I pulled out the device. The screen flared to life, displaying strange symbols in fluid arcs. A calm AI voice guided me through the first lesson, sounds rolling off my tongue awkwardly. My mouth wasn't used to these shapes. By midday, I could mimic simple phrases, enough to maybe pass as a beginner, enough to stop people from spitting mute under their breath. But Mom's warning gnawed at me. If Synthonic was a cage, then why learn it? Because even in a cage, you needed the key to open the door. Ethan found me again that evening, this time with urgency in his voice. "Caleb wants to see you. Now." My stomach dropped. Caleb wasn't the kind of man you refused. He ruled the settlement like the tide, unforgiving, unstoppable. I slipped the device deeper into my coat and followed Ethan through the narrow walkways, salt water slapping the wood below. We passed others who lowered their voices as we went by. Caleb waited in the central chamber, flanked by 2 guards. His eyes swept over me, calculating. "I hear," he said in perfect Synthonic, his tone almost pleasant, "you've been learning our language." My throat tightened. I could barely form a reply, the words catching like fish in a net. He smiled, not kindly. Good, you'll prove it tomorrow. In the arena. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. The arena? Show us you're worth keeping around. His gaze hardened. Or the tide will take you. Outside, the ocean roared, and for the first time, I understood. It wasn't just water at our walls. It was the sound of something hungry, waiting. Chapter 2, The Arena. I didn't sleep. The night after Caleb's summons was all salt and shadows. Every creak of the wooden platform, every groan of the tide beneath, felt like the settlement itself was warning me. You don't belong here. Morning came in a pale, bruised light. Ethan was already at my door. He avoided my eyes, shoving a chunk of bread into my hand. You'll need your strength, he muttered. Strength for what exactly? I asked, even though I knew. He hesitated. Just don't fight it. If you do, Caleb, I get it. My voice came out sharper than I intended. We walked in silence through the narrow planks that connected the settlement's huts, the ocean hissing below. People leaned out of windows, whispering in Synthonic. I caught enough to know they were talking about me. Mute girl, dead weight. The arena wasn't much more than a circular platform built above the water, reinforced with scavenged steel beams. But the air around it buzzed with anticipation, voices rising in a dozen dialects, though Synthonic drowned them all out. Caleb stood at the center, dressed in black that gleamed like wet stone. His smile was thin. Today, he announced in Synthonic, we see if the mute girl can speak. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I stepped forward, feeling the device in my coat pocket press against my ribs. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Words are freedom. Caleb gestured to a figure across from me, a boy about my age, lean and wiry, with eyes like shards of glass. Your opponent, Caleb said. First to falter loses. Winner stays, loser feeds the tide. The boy smirked. Ready to drown? The match began. A voice from somewhere, an announcer, shouted a phrase in Synthonic. My implant didn't work, but the device in my pocket buzzed faintly. I slipped my hand inside, tapping it twice. A soft vibration pulsed in time with the words, guiding my tongue. I repeated the phrase. My accent was clumsy, but the crowd murmured in surprise. The boy answered, perfect and fast. The next phrase came harder, something about the Nexus towers, judging by the few words I recognized. My mouth stumbled, but I caught myself. We went back and forth, each phrase longer, more complex. My jaw ached, sweat dripped down my spine. Halfway through, I caught sight of Ethan at the edge of the crowd. He was talking to one of Caleb's guards, his expression tense. When the guard nodded and slipped away, a chill ran through me. The boy across from me spoke again, his words quick as gunfire. I hesitated, and the crowd roared. Caleb's smile widened. Struggling, Sarah? He called. I forced the sounds out, nearly choking on the last syllable. The vibration from the device steadied me. Then the boy said something that made the crowd gasp. I didn't understand the words, but I felt the venom in them. The device buzzed urgently, almost like a warning. I repeated the phrase anyway. Gasps. Murmurs. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Ethan stepped forward, raising his voice in Synthonic. The crowd fell silent. Caleb listened, then turned to me with a slow, deliberate grin. So, he said, switching to broken English for the first time, you cheat. My stomach dropped. Ethan's words hit me like a wave. He told Caleb about the device, about Mom's message. Ethan, I whispered, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. 2 guards seized me, yanking my coat open. The device clattered to the platform. Caleb picked it up, turning it over in his hands. Old tech, he mused. Dangerous tech. It's mine, I said, my voice shaking. Not anymore. He slipped it into his pocket. You want freedom, Sarah? Earn it without your little toy. The next phrase came. I tried to form the sounds, but without the device's subtle cues, the language twisted in my mouth. The crowd laughed. The boy grinned, spitting out a flawless answer. Caleb raised a hand. Enough. We have our answer. The guards moved to drag me away, but I yanked free. This isn't about language. It's about control. Caleb's expression didn't change, but the air seemed to tighten. You learn quickly? He said softly. Perhaps you'll be useful after all. He leaned closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Tomorrow, you leave with my men. There's a place that needs cleaning. We'll see if you survive it. The crowd erupted again, this time in cheers that felt like knives against my skin. The guards pushed me toward the edge of the platform. As I stumbled, I caught one last glimpse of Ethan. His face was pale, jaw tight, but he didn't stop them. The tide roared below, hungry as ever. And for the first time, I knew it wasn't just the water that could drown me. The next morning, they came for me before the sun had cleared the horizon. Two guards in black waded through the narrow walkways, boots thudding on soaked planks. One yanked open my door. "On your feet," he barked in Synthonic. I didn't need translation to know it wasn't a request. I had barely time to stuff a scrap of bread into my pocket before they hauled me outside. The air was sharp with salt and the distant tang of diesel fuel. The tide slapped hard against the stilts beneath the settlement, like it knew someone was leaving for good. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Caleb waited by the docks, arms folded. Behind him, a skiff bobbed in the dark water, its hull patched with mismatched metal plates. An engine sputtered in the back, coughing black smoke. "Deadlands run," Caleb said. His Synthonic was slower this time, deliberate, as if he wanted me to catch every word. "Clean the place, bring back anything valuable. If you return empty-handed..." His gaze slid to the waves. "Well, you know." The guard shoved me onto the skiff. One climbed in behind me, the other took the controls. We pulled away from the settlement, the noise of the crowd fading until only the engine and the hiss of the ocean remained. The wooden platform shrank behind us, swallowed by fog. Ahead, nothing but gray water and darker sky. The Deadlands weren't marked on any official map. People spoke of them in half-remembered rumors. Ruins from before the flood, choked with rust, salt, and things worse than the tide. After an hour, shapes began to rise from the mist. Broken towers leaned at impossible angles, half swallowed by the sea. Rust streaked their sides like dried blood. Somewhere, a metal beam screeched against another, a sound like a scream torn apart by wind. The skiff nosed up to a platform of warped steel. The guard behind me motioned with his rifle. "Go!" I climbed onto the slick surface. Water gurgled through cracks beneath my feet. In the distance, I saw the skeletons of ships, gutted and hollow. "Don't wander," the guard said. "We'll be watching." Right, watching, or waiting for me to disappear. I moved deeper into the ruins, picking my way past jagged rebar and twisted ladders. The air was thick, metallic. My boots slipped on algae-slick steel. Then I heard it, faint at first, a steady mechanical hum. Not from the guard's skiff. This was coming from somewhere inside the ruins. I followed the sound into what had once been a cargo hold. Sunlight spilled in through a jagged hole in the ceiling, glinting off rows of machines I didn't recognize. They were sleek, black, with faint blue lines running across their surfaces like veins. One of them flickered, then a holographic display snapped to life. Lines of code danced across it, too fast for me to follow. But the patterns, I recognized them. Not Synthonic. Something older. A voice came from behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. A woman stood in the doorway, her hair pulled into a messy braid, goggles hanging around her neck. Her jacket was stitched from scraps of weatherproof fabric, pockets bulging with tools. She looked me over, eyes sharp. I started, but she cut me off with a raised hand. "You're from the settlement," she said. "Caleb sent you?" I hesitated, unsure if telling the truth would help or get me killed. "Yes." Her mouth twisted. "Figures. He's been sniffing around here for months, looking for this." She tapped one of the machines, and the code shifted into a map, a sprawling network of nodes, glowing like constellations. I stepped closer. "What is it?" "Nexus Code," she said. "The original framework, before Synthonic locked it down. With this, you can teach or erase any language." Mom's voice echoed in my head. "Words are freedom." The woman noticed my reaction. "You've heard of it." I swallowed. "My mom, she left me a device, said it could teach languages they'd erased." Her brows shot up. "Then you're more valuable than I thought." She reached into her jacket and pulled out a sleek tool. "Name's Maya, and if you want to live, you'll help me get this code out before Caleb does." Before I could answer, a shout echoed through the ruins. "The guards." Maya cursed under her breath. "Too late, they found us." She grabbed my wrist and yanked me toward a side hatch. We ran through a narrow corridor, the walls slick with condensation. Behind us, footsteps pounded closer. A shot rang out, the bullet sparking off a steel beam. "Why are they shooting?" Caleb told them. "Caleb doesn't care if you make it back," Maya said, pulling me around a corner. "He cares about the Nexus Code. And if he can't have it, he'll make sure no one else does." We burst out onto a ledge overlooking the water. Waves slammed into the steel below, spraying us with salt. Maya scanned the horizon. There, She pointed to a narrow channel between two wrecks. That's our way out. Footsteps thundered behind us. No time to think. We climbed down a ladder, the metal cold and slick under my hands. A guard appeared at the top, rifle raised. Maya shoved a small device into my palm. Hide this, don't let him get it. I looked down. It was a memory core, no bigger than a coin, pulsing faintly blue. What's on it? I asked, even though I already knew. The part of the Nexus Code that can break Synthonic, she said. Run. I shoved it deep into my pocket just as the guard fired. The shot missed, but the sound was deafening. Maya grabbed my arm, and we plunged into the water. The cold stole my breath. Salt burned my eyes. I kicked hard, following the shadow of her figure toward the channel. Above, shouts and gunfire echoed, muffled by the water. We surfaced behind the wrecks, gasping. Maya's face was pale, but her eyes burned. Congratulations, she said between breaths. You just made yourself the most wanted girl on the coast. And in that moment, I believed her. The fog swallowed everything. Salt stung my lips as I clung to the slick metal hull of a half-sunken ship. Maya surfaced beside me, water streaming off her braid. Somewhere beyond the wreckage, shouts echoed. Caleb's men still hunting. We have to keep moving, she whispered. They won't stop. I forced my numb arms to obey. We swam along the side of the wreck until the water shallowed into a tangle of rusted beams and floating debris. The fog made every shape uncertain, every shadow suspicious. Where are we going? I asked. Through the Deadlands, she said, pulling herself onto a tilted deck. There's a safe point. If we can reach it, we'll disappear. Her safe point didn't sound safe at all, but I followed. My boots clanged against the corroded steel, echoing too loud in the stillness. We moved quickly, weaving between leaning structures and pools of stagnant water. The air here was different, charged, almost electric. My skin prickled. Then I heard it, a sound like metal scraping metal, followed by a low, distorted hum. It wasn't the ocean, and it wasn't human. Maya froze. Stay quiet. Shapes emerged in the fog. Tall, skeletal figures with spindly limbs of polished steel and patches of living tissue stretched across frames. Their eyes glowed faint blue, scanning the ruins. What are those? I whispered. Tech hybrids, Maya said, barely moving her lips. Old war machines? They guard the Nexus Code, or what's left of it. One of them tilted its head, listening. A wet, clicking sound came from its throat. Maya signaled for me to move backward slowly. My foot slipped on a patch of algae, sending a shard of metal clattering to the deck. The nearest hybrid's head snapped toward us. Run. We bolted across the tilted deck, boots slipping on wet steel. The hybrid let out a high-pitched screech, and the others joined in, the sound reverberating through the fog. They're calling to each other, I shouted. No kidding. Maya yanked me toward a narrow bridge of pipes spanning a gap between wrecks. We scrambled across, the pipes swaying under our weight. Behind us, the hybrids moved fast, too fast for something half machine, half organic. Their limbs folded and extended in unnatural ways, letting them leap across the gaps with terrifying grace. One landed just feet behind me. I felt the air shift as it reached out, claws scraping the pipe. Maya shoved me forward. Don't stop! We hit solid ground, a platform covered in barnacles and seaweed. A door stood at the far end, half buried under debris. Maya dove for it, wrenching it open just as a hybrid lunged. We stumbled inside, slamming the door shut. Something slammed against it from the other side, making the frame shudder. Help me, Maya said, bracing her shoulder against the metal. I threw my weight into, and the door held, barely. After a moment, the pounding stopped. The silence that followed was worse. They're not gone, Maya said, panting. They're waiting. The room we'd entered was small, lined with rusted lockers and a broken console in the corner. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling. What do they want? I asked. The code, she said. Her gaze flicked to my coat pocket. Or rather, the piece of it you're carrying. I touched the memory core through the fabric. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. You said it can break Synthonic. It can do more than that, she said. With it, you could restore every lost language, or erase them forever. The thought made my stomach twist. Why would anyone erase them? Control. If you only speak what they allow, they own your voice. Her eyes locked on mine. Caleb wants that power. The Nexus has already perfected it. Before I could reply, a metallic groan came from above. Dust rained down. They found another way in, Maya said. She scanned the room, then pried open a locker. Inside was a coil of rope and a flare gun, both coated in salt. She tossed the gun to me. If they get too close, aim for the tissue, not the metal. I gripped it tight, my hands shaking. Where are we going? Up. We climbed a rusted maintenance ladder, the metal cold against my palms. The ladder led to a hatch, which Maya shoved open, letting in a rush of fog and wind. We emerged onto the roof of the structure, if you could call it a roof. It was more like a platform of warped steel, tilting dangerously over the water. The hybrids were already there. 3 of them stood between us and the only clear path forward, their glowing eyes locked on the memory core bulging in my pocket. Maya drew a knife from her belt. Stay behind me. One hybrid lunged. Maya ducked under its swipe, slicing into the patch of living tissue along its ribs. It let out a distorted howl and staggered back. Another hybrid came for me. I fumbled with the flare gun, aimed for the pulsing flesh where its neck met its metal frame, and fired. The flare exploded in bright orange light, and the hybrid shrieked, thrashing before toppling over the edge into the water below. But the last one didn't attack. It just stood there, head tilted, studying me. Its eyes flickered, blue, then white. Then it spoke. Not in Synthonic, not in English, but I understood the meaning. You carry the key. Before I could react, it leapt backward into the fog, vanishing. Maya grabbed my arm. We need to move, now. We ran across the platform, the metal groaning under our weight. Ahead, a narrow causeway led deeper into the Deadlands. The fog swallowed everything beyond it. I glanced back once. The water where the hybrid had fallen was still rippling, though nothing surfaced. For the first time, I wasn't sure if the hybrids were only enemies, and that scared me more than anything. We didn't stop running until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they might snap in half. The causeway ended at a cluster of leaning structures lashed together with cables and scavenged planks. The whole thing swayed with the tide, groaning like it might tear apart any second. Maya slowed, scanning the fog. This is it. This? I panted. This looks like it's one strong wave away from sinking. That's the point. No one comes here unless they know how to keep it afloat. She rapped on a corroded metal door. A small panel slid open, revealing a pair of dark eyes. Maya, the person behind the panel said, "You're late." The door creaked open. We stepped inside into a narrow hallway lit by strips of salvaged LEDs. The air was warmer here, tinged with the smell of oil and damp wood. The man who'd let us in was tall and broad-shouldered, with skin weathered by salt and sun. "She's with you?" he asked, nodding at me. "She's the one I told you about," Maya said. His eyes narrowed. "The key." I stiffened. "Stop calling me that." "It's what you are," Maya said matter-of-factly, stripping off her soaked jacket, "whether you like it or not." We followed the man into a larger room, if large meant big enough for 6 people to stand without touching. It was filled with workbenches, cluttered with tools, maps, and pieces of machinery in various states of disassembly. "This is Riker," Maya said, nodding toward the man. "He keeps this place hidden, helps us move things in and out of the Deadlands without drawing attention." Riker leaned against a bench, and right now, attention is exactly what you've got. I pulled the memory core from my pocket, holding it in my palm. The faint blue pulse seemed almost faster now, like it knew it was being talked about. "If this is so dangerous, why not just destroy it?" "Because," Maya said, stepping closer, "this isn't just data. It's the original Nexus Code, or at least a piece of it. Before Synthonic, the Nexus could connect every known language. It was supposed to be a bridge." Riker snorted. "Then they decided bridges are dangerous when they let people think for themselves." Maya nodded. "They locked it down, made Synthonic the only official language. Now, anyone who can't speak it is cut off from trade, work, even basic rights. That's how Caleb keeps control in the settlements, same as the Nexus does everywhere else." My stomach twisted. "And this breaks that control?" "It could," Maya said. "With the full code, you could restore every lost language, give people back their voices. Or," Riker added darkly, "wipe every language off the map except the one you choose. Whoever holds the code decides which way it goes." The weight of the core in my hand felt heavier. "So Caleb wants it to keep everyone under his control. And the Nexus wants it so no one can challenge theirs," Maya said. "Which means both of them will kill for it." I closed my fist around the core. "What about the tech hybrids? One of them, it spoke to me, said I carry the key." Riker froze. "It spoke to you?" I nodded. Not in Synthonic, not in English, but I understood. Maya and Riker exchanged a look I didn't like. What? I demanded. The hybrids aren't just machines, Maya said carefully. They were designed as guardians of the Nexus Code. If one recognized you, it means the code is already bound to you somehow. How is that even possible? Maya hesitated. Unless your mother. She didn't finish. I stepped back. You know something you're not telling me. She worked on the Nexus project before the flood, Maya said finally. If she left you that device, she knew you'd be able to use the code, maybe even change it. I wanted to argue, but Mom's hologram flashed in my mind, her voice, her warning. Words are freedom. Before I could respond, a sharp beep cut through the room. Riker spun toward a console on the wall. The display flickered to life, showing a grainy image of the outer platform. Figures were moving in the fog. Not hybrids this time. Human. Armed. Circuit lords, Riker said. Caleb's men. My pulse spiked. They found us? They must have tracked you from the Deadlands, Maya said, already grabbing a pack from the workbench. We have to move, now. Riker pulled a shotgun from under the table. I'll hold them off. You won't last 5 minutes, Maya snapped. He shrugged. Then I'll make it the worst 5 minutes of their lives. Go. Maya shoved me toward a narrow hatch in the back wall. This leads to the lower platforms. There's a skiff hidden there. Once we're on open water, we head north. Why north? I asked, ducking into the hatch. Because that's where the next piece of the code is, she said. And if Caleb gets there first, we're all finished. Gunfire cracked above us. The sound of boots pounded on the metal floor. Riker shouted something. Then another shot, closer this time. Maya pushed me harder. Move. We burst out onto a swaying platform just as the first raindrops hit. The sky had darkened, the wind sharp with the smell of a coming storm. Somewhere above, I heard Riker's voice cut off mid-shout. Maya grabbed the skiff's starter cord. Don't look back. I didn't mean to, but I did. Through the fog, I saw shadows moving in the workshop's doorway, Caleb's men pouring inside. The engine roared to life. We shot away from the shelter into the open water, rain pelting my face. The fog closed in again, hiding everything except the faint glow of the memory core through my jacket. Maya leaned over the controls. Hold on. The storm's going to make this rough. Lightning split the sky, and for a split second, I thought I saw something massive moving under the surface of the water. Not a wave, not a whale, something else. The thunder drowned my voice as I shouted, Maya, there's something out there. Her eyes flicked to the dark water ahead. I know, she said grimly, and it's not here for Caleb. The skiff pitched violently as another wave slammed into its side. My stomach lurched, but it wasn't just the storm, it was the shadows sliding under us, bigger than any boat I'd ever seen. Keep the bow straight, Maya shouted over the wind. I'm trying. My hands were locked around the rail. Every muscle screamed from holding on, the rain stinging my face like shards of glass. Lightning flashed again, and the thing surfaced just far enough for me to see a slick, metallic curve breaking the water. Not flesh, plating, like a machine built from the bones of a sea creature. It's a hybrid, I gasped. Not just any hybrid, Maya said, voice tight. That's a sentinel. They only guard Nexus access points. The sentinel circled, its dorsal plating slicing through the waves. Then it dove. The sea swelled unnaturally around us. My skin prickled. It's going to ram us, I yelled. Maya slammed the throttle. The skiff surged forward, but the water to our right bulged, and the sentinel erupted from the depths, an arc of steel and barnacled armor. It crashed down just behind us, sending a wall of water over the stern. I coughed, salt burning my throat. Tell me you have a plan. Survive, she snapped. The sentinel's head, if you could call it that, rose above the waves. Lenses like glass eyes glowed faintly blue, scanning. Then it made a sound, not mechanical, not organic, but a resonant hum that vibrated in my bones. I froze. Somehow I understood it. Key carrier detected. Maya must have seen my face. What is it saying? It knows I have the code, I said. The hum deepened. Surrender the core. Access point must remain secure. It's not asking, I added. Then don't answer. Maya twisted the wheel hard left. The skiff spun, spray exploding around us. The sentinel vanished under the waves again. Before I could catch my breath, something slammed into us from below. The deck cracked. Water sprayed up through the seams. We're not going to make it, I shouted. A flare shot into the sky, a burst of red against the dark clouds. It came from somewhere off our port side. Maya's head snapped toward it. Someone signaling us. Another flash of lightning revealed a larger vessel cutting through the storm. Rusted hull, patched sails, but it was moving fast. The Sentinel surfaced again, between us and the approaching ship. Then a sound tore through the wind, a deep, booming blast. The other vessel had fired something, and it wasn't a cannonball. A glowing net shot across the water, wrapping around the Sentinel's head. The hybrid thrashed, the net tightening, pulsing with electric arcs. Maya didn't waste the opening. She gunned the skiff toward the larger ship. Figures leaned over its side, shouting. A rope ladder slapped against the waves. "Go!" Maya yelled. I climbed, my fingers numb, my legs shaking. A pair of hands grabbed me at the top, hauling me onto the deck. When my vision cleared, I froze. Ethan? He looked exactly as I remembered. Wet hair plastered to his forehead, eyes shadowed with something between guilt and relief. Sarah? I didn't think I'd see you again. Behind us, Maya climbed aboard, glaring at him. You've got nerve showing up now. I'm not here for a reunion, Ethan said quickly. I've been tracking the Sentinel. It's guarding the northern access point. If it knows about her, he nodded toward me, we've got a problem. Yeah, no kidding, Maya muttered. The crew hauled the skiff aboard before it sank completely. Below, the Sentinel roared, a sound like metal tearing, and the glowing net started to fray. Ethan grabbed my arm. If you want to get north before Caleb, you'll need me. I stared at him. Last time I trusted you, you sold me out. His jaw tightened, and I've been trying to fix that ever since. The Sentinel tore free of the net, its glowing eyes locked on me across the churning water. Ethan shouted something to the crew, and the ship lurched forward. The Sentinel dove again, following. We can't outrun it forever, Maya yelled. I know, Ethan said, but I know where we can hide, long enough to figure out how to kill it. Kill it, I echoed. He met my eyes. Or convince it you're not the enemy. The Sentinel's hum echoed again through the storm, vibrating in my skull. Key carrier, access compromised. And this time, I didn't just hear it. I felt an answer forming on my tongue. Words I'd never spoken before, in a language I didn't know I knew. The word burned in my throat, sharp and alien. My lips parted before I could stop them. Karasthun. The storm seemed to flinch. Even the waves paused for half a heartbeat. The Sentinel froze mid-dive, its plating glistening in the lightning's glare. The blue glow of its lenses pulsed once, twice, then held steady. Ethan's hand tightened on my arm. What did you just say? I don't know. My voice trembled. The syllables still tingled in my mouth, as if they were alive. It just came to me. The hum returned, lower now, almost curious. Identify speaker. I swallowed hard. Sarah Miller, I said uselessly. The Sentinel tilted its head. Lineage query. Nexus signature detected. Maya stepped in front of me. We don't have time for this. That thing. Wait. I cut her off. It's not attacking. Lightning forked overhead. The glow in the Sentinel's lenses dimmed, then flared again. Core bearer, you carry the mother's voice. A shiver raced through me. Mother's voice? You, I whispered. Ethan's gaze snapped to me. Sarah, your mom. I don't know what it means, I said, but my pulse hammered in my ears. The Sentinel let out another hum, this one resonating deep in my chest. Protocol override, escort to Northern Vault. It wants to take us north, I realized. That's a trap, Maya said flatly. Circuit lords control the vault. Ethan shook his head. Not all of it. If this Sentinel's still running original code, it might not even recognize Caleb's authority. The ship rolled violently as another wave hit. The crew shouted, struggling to keep us on course. The Sentinel moved closer, its massive form rising alongside the ship. For a moment, I could see details in its plating, etched patterns like language carved into steel, the same patterns I'd seen on my mother's AI device. Sarah, Ethan said urgently, if you can talk to it, maybe you can tell it to help us, not Caleb. I took a breath, the taste of salt and metal on my tongue. The strange language was still there, like a door half open in my mind. But what if saying the wrong thing locked it forever? The Sentinel waited, waves breaking against its armored sides. I closed my eyes. The words came, fragmented but whole enough to speak. Karasthun, Velmaranex. The Sentinel's glow pulsed 3 times. Directive accepted. The ship lurched forward, not from the wind, but from the current the Sentinel created as it dove ahead of us, clearing a path through the storm. Maya stared at me like she'd never seen me before. You just gave orders to a hybrid. I didn't mean to, I said, my hands shaking. Ethan's expression was unreadable. No, you were meant to. The storm began to thin as the Sentinel led us toward calmer waters. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, not just between me and the hybrid, but inside me. Like the code wasn't just in my mother's device. Like it was in me. The waves eased, flattening into an eerie stillness. After hours of fighting the storm, the silence felt wrong, like the ocean was holding its breath. The Sentinel swam ahead, its armored spine cutting a perfect path through the water. Even the air seemed cleaner here. Feels like we just sailed into a dream, one of the crew muttered. Or a trap, Maya said under her breath. I stayed at the bow, eyes fixed on the Sentinel. I could still feel the echo of our exchange in my chest, the strange language humming faintly at the edges of my thoughts. Ethan stepped up beside me. You're too calm, he said. I'm not calm, I replied. I'm trying not to think about how much of this ocean could kill us. His mouth twitched like he wanted to smile, but didn't. Sarah, about before? The words you spoke, they weren't just random. My guess? Your mom didn't just work with the code. She might have been part of it. That doesn't make sense. Neither does talking to a hybrid, he said, walking away. Before I could respond, the crew's lookout shouted from the mast, Sails, port side. I turned, my stomach sinking. Out of the mist, a black-hulled ship emerged, its metal plating gleaming like oil. The prow bore the insignia of the Circuit Lords, a jagged circle with a line driven through it. They found us, Maya said grimly. Ethan's hand went to the sidearm at his hip. Not they, Caleb. A voice boomed from the black ship's deck, carried across the water by an amplifier. Sarah Miller. Hand over the device, and you live. I didn't need to see his face to know it was Caleb. The Sentinel surfaced between our ship and his, emitting a warning hum that vibrated through the hull. Caleb laughed, the sound sharp and cold. Even your pet hybrid knows who its master is. The Sentinel's glow flared bright blue, and I felt a strange surge, like it was asking me for permission. They're arming harpoons, Maya said, eyes darting to the enemy deck. Can it fight? I asked. Ethan gave me a look. It's waiting for you to say the word. My pulse raced. The language was there again, pressing at the back of my mind. I stepped forward and shouted across the water, Karis Thun, Marvalin. The Sentinel roared, a sound like the ocean itself cracking open, and dove. Seconds later, the black ship lurched violently. Water exploded around its hull as the Sentinel slammed into it from below. Crew members on Caleb's ship scrambled, some tumbling overboard. Hard to starboard, Maya yelled, spinning the wheel. Our ship veered, trying to slip past while the Sentinel kept Caleb occupied. But Caleb wasn't giving up. His voice cut through the chaos. Fire! A harpoon tore through the air, trailing a cable. It buried itself in the Sentinel's side. I felt it like a punch in my own ribs. The Sentinel thrashed, snapping 2 masts on the black ship, but the cable held, electrified pulses surging down its length. They're trying to fry it, Ethan shouted. I didn't think, I just spoke. The words weren't mine, but they came from deep inside. Velmara Nex Serath. The cable shattered, sparks spraying into the air. The Sentinel dove again, vanishing beneath the waves. For a heartbeat, I thought it had fled. Then the water ahead of Caleb's ship erupted, and the hybrid burst upward, its entire body coiled in motion. It came down like a hammer, splitting the black hull open. Go, go, go! Maya drove us past the wreckage, sails straining. Behind us, the black ship was sinking fast, its crew abandoning it into the churning water. Caleb was nowhere in sight. Only when the enemy was a speck on the horizon did the Sentinel resurface, trailing sparks from the harpoon wound. I leaned over the rail. You saved us. Its glow dimmed, pulsing slower. Escort continues. But in its tone, I caught something else. Strain. Pain. And I realized the hybrid had bled for me. We followed the Sentinel into a narrow inlet, the cliffs rising so high on both sides they swallowed the sun. The water here was calm, green and still, as if the storm and battle had never happened. The hybrid slowed, drifting toward a rocky shelf. Its plating was scorched where the harpoon had struck, sparking weakly in the shadows. Maya jumped down from the helm. It needs repairs now. That kind of damage, if it loses its outer plates, the core is exposed. Ethan frowned. Where do you fix something like that? We don't exactly have a spare hybrid dock. Maya's gaze swept the cliffs. Maybe we don't need one. If there's a natural hollow, we can work on it under cover. I ran a hand along the rail, watching the Sentinel's glow pulse slower, weaker. We owe it that much. It turned its head toward me, lenses focusing. Protocol assist, vault proximity, 10.4 kilometers. My pulse quickened. The vault's close? Maya shook her head. Close doesn't mean accessible. This terrain could. She stopped. From somewhere deep in the cliffs came an echo. Not just an echo, voices. The crew stiffened. Ethan's hand hovered over his weapon. The words carried faintly over the water, rhythmic and melodic, almost like a chant. And I understood them. I didn't just understand them. I felt them. The language was the same one I'd spoken to the Sentinel. They're speaking Synthonic? Ethan asked. I shook my head. Older. I hesitated. It's the code language. Maya narrowed her eyes. How do you... I just do, I said, because the truth that it was in me somehow wasn't something I could explain yet. We pulled the ship into a cove, and Ethan and I took a narrow path between boulders. The voices grew clearer, the words repeating like they were part of a ritual. At the end of the path, the cliffs opened into a hidden basin. There was a village here, built into the rock itself, houses carved from stone, bridges of woven vine strung between ledges. Children played barefoot on the walkways, their laughter mixing with the low chant of elders gathered around a fire pit. The moment they saw us, the chanting stopped. Dozens of eyes turned our way. An older woman stepped forward, her face lined but her posture unyielding. She spoke in the code language, and though I had never been here, the meaning reached me effortlessly. The mother's voice walks again. I froze. What did you call me? She studied me for a long moment, then beckoned. Come. You carry the right to hear the truth. Ethan glanced at me. Do we trust her? No, I said honestly, but I think we have to. The villagers led us to the largest dwelling, a chamber lit with hanging lanterns. The walls were covered in carvings, patterns like the ones on the Sentinel's plating, spiraling and intersecting in a language of shapes. The woman spoke again, and now I realized she wasn't just addressing me, she was speaking through me, as if I were a conduit. Our order kept the old tongue alive after the lords rewrote the world. We knew the day would come when one born outside would carry it again. I swallowed hard. Why me? She reached into her robes and drew out a fragment of metal, etched with the same patterns. Because your mother was one of us. My breath caught. That's impossible. She never. She hid it from you, the woman said. But the code cannot be erased from blood. Ethan leaned forward. If you know about the vault, you can help us get there. The woman's gaze shifted to him, cool and assessing. The vault is not a door to be opened lightly. It holds not just power, but consequence. Outside, the Sentinel let out a low hum, the sound vibrating through the stone. The woman's expression changed. Your guardian is hurt. You can help it? I asked. She nodded. We've repaired hybrids before. But when it rises again, you will owe us. What do you want? Her answer was simple. When you stand at the vault, you will choose not for yourself, but for the voices yet unborn. I didn't fully understand, but I felt the weight of her words settle into me like a stone. That night, while the villagers worked on the Sentinel in the shallows, I stood alone at the cliff's edge, looking out toward the dark horizon. Somewhere out there, Caleb had survived. Somewhere out there, the vault was waiting. And for the first time, I wondered if opening it might destroy more than it saved. Dawn bled over the cliffs, staining the sea copper. The Sentinel rested in the shallows, its plating patched with an intricate weave of metal and organic fibers. The villagers worked through the night, murmuring in the old tongue as they fused the repairs seamlessly into its frame. Maya inspected the final joint, running her fingers over the etching. They didn't just fix it, they upgraded it. Whoever these people are, they know more about hybrid systems than anyone in the Freeports. Ethan kept scanning the horizon, tension in every line of him. All the more reason to move. Caleb's not dead. He'll come. I looked at the Sentinel. Are you ready? It turned its head toward me. Glow steady now. Function restored. Navigation locked on Vault Vector. The villagers gathered as we prepared to leave. The elder woman pressed the fragment of etched metal into my hand. When the path darkens, speak its name and the vault will listen. What name? I asked. Her eyes were like polished stone. You will know it when the choice is upon you. We pushed off from the rocky shelf, the Sentinel sliding ahead like a shadow beneath the waves. For an hour, the sea was calm. Then, a sharp, metallic crack split the air. The Sentinel jerked violently, a plume of seawater shooting skyward. What was that? Maya shouted. Another crack. A spear, longer than a mast and tipped with a black humming blade, arced out of the mist and plunged into the sentinel's flank. Its glow stuttered. I felt a sudden void in my mind, like someone had slammed a door between us. Ethan swore. "They've got a disruptor." Out of the fog, a low, armored vessel emerged, its deck bristling with weaponry, and at the bow stood Caleb, dressed in a long black coat, a spear launcher clamped to the railing beside him. "Sarah!" His voice carried over the water. "Do you feel it? That emptiness? That's the sound of your guardian dying." Maya swung us hard to port, but the vessel matched our turn, herding us toward a narrow stretch of coastline, jagged rocks and crashing surf. Caleb raised another spear, the hum in its tip growing sharper. "You can hand over the device now, or I'll take it from your bones." I gripped the rail. "You're not getting it." The sentinel tried to rise, but the spears embedded in its plating pulsed again, sending tremors through its frame. Its movements slowed, sluggish. Maya's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "It's losing buoyancy. We have to get to shore." Ethan scanned the coastline. "There's a break in the rocks at 10 o'clock. If we time the waves." The sentinel gave a low, pained rumble. "Proceed. I will follow." I hated the sound of it, like it was telling me goodbye. Maya pushed the ship toward the gap. Caleb's vessel closed in, another spear loaded. I didn't think. I climbed onto the bow rail, high balancing as the spray hit my face. The old tongue rose up in me, unbidden. "Vraith Kunar." The sea bucked. A massive wave, taller than our mast, surged between us and Caleb's vessel. It crashed over his deck, knocking crewmen sprawling. The third spear fired wild, slamming into the cliffs. Maya steered us into the narrow break. Jagged stones scraped the hull, but we made it through, the surge carrying us into a sheltered cove. The sentinel drifted in behind us, its glow faint, still studded with the humming spears. "We can't pull them out here," Maya said, breathless. "They're wired into its core. We'll have to take them out on land." Ethan was already tossing supplies into packs. "Then we move. Caleb's not letting this go." I looked back at the mouth of the cove. Mist still clung to the rocks, but in it, I could see the shadow of Caleb's ship circling. We were on land now. The sentinel couldn't follow us far, and that meant the rest of the journey to the vault would be on our feet. The idea of leaving it behind twisted in my chest. But in its dim, flickering glow, I thought I saw understanding. "Go," it seemed to say. "I will endure." So we went. Into the cliffs, away from the shore, toward a path none of us had walked before. We climbed until the sound of the waves faded into nothing but wind. The cliffs gave way to a wide plateau of cracked earth, as if the land had been burned from beneath. The air was dry, sharp with the scent of metal and dust. Maya adjusted the strap on her pack. "This is the Deadlands edge. From here to the vault, it's all ground Caleb's people seated." "Seated with what?" Ethan asked. She gave him a grim look. "Language traps." I'd heard rumors, devices that turned speech into weapons. If you spoke Synthonic near one, it could turn your voice into a sonic blade, a concussive blast, or a wave that fried every nerve in your body. Ethan shifted uneasily. "So we just don't talk?" "Not exactly," Maya said. "The traps are tuned to Synthonic's tonal structure. Old tongue might pass through unnoticed." My mouth felt suddenly dry. "You mean I'll have to guide us?" Maya nodded. "You can hear the cadence in the land. The rest of us, silent." We moved single file, stepping over fissures and twisted remnants of metal half buried in the ground. At first, it felt like nothing was here, just dead stone and wind. Then I heard it, a faint clicking, like teeth chattering deep underground. I stopped and raised a hand. Ethan froze behind me. Maya crouched low, scanning. The clicking shifted into a high-pitched whine. In my mind, it resolved into the echo of Synthonic syllables, sharp, metallic. I spoke in the old tongue, low and steady. "Veris Ethel." The sound dimmed, like something losing interest. We stepped around a half-collapsed ridge, and there it was, a thin spire of black glass, no taller than my shoulder, its surface crawling with light. Ethan mouthed, "That's it?" but didn't make a sound. We passed 3 more traps in the next hour, each more sensitive than the last. Once, a gust of wind rattled Ethan's gear, and the nearest spire flared, sending a ripple through the ground. My heart slammed against my ribs as I whispered the counterphrase, and the ripple passed. By midday, the heat had settled into our bones. The plateau stretched endless in all directions. That's when we saw the figure. Far ahead, a lone person stood in the shimmer of heat, draped in tattered robes. They didn't move, even as we approached. When we were 20 paces away, the figure raised their head. Their eyes were covered with a strip of cloth, but their lips moved, shaping words I could feel more than hear. It was old tongue, but twisted, the cadence jagged, like it had been broken and reassembled wrong. Maya whispered before catching herself. They're triggering the traps. I could hear the spires around us waking, the clicks building into a chorus. The figure reached into their robes and drew out a shard of glass, the same black as the spires. They pressed it to their throat, and their voice rang out, not human, but a sharp synthetic chime. The ground split open between us. A shockwave tore through the dust, sending Ethan and Maya sprawling. I stumbled forward, yelling in Old Tongue to counter, my voice raw. The shockwave slowed, but the figure kept speaking, the words battering at me like waves. Then they stopped. The spires dimmed. The figure lowered the shard. Child of the vault, they said in perfect Old Tongue. You walk the path blind. Who are you? I demanded, a warning. Their voice was like stone sliding over stone. The vault does not free, it binds, and those who open it never leave unchanged. Before I could answer, they turned and walked into the heat haze, vanishing like they'd never been there. We stood in silence for a long time. Finally, Maya said, well, that's comforting. But the words stuck in my head long after we moved on. Not because of the threat, because of how they'd called me. Child of the vault. Like the elder in the cliff village, they already knew who I was. And that meant the vault was not just waiting for me. It was calling. The air grew heavier as we pressed on, the heat bleeding into a gray haze that clung to the ground. The plateau narrowed into a valley, its walls jagged with fractured stone. Here, the spires were fewer, but taller, their surfaces rippling with faint light. Maya slowed. I don't like this. The trap network's different here. Stronger. Ethan glanced back at the empty horizon. No sign of Caleb. Maybe we've bought some time. I didn't answer. The hairs on my arms were already rising. Something about this stretch of land felt off, like the air itself was listening. We made it halfway through the valley before the first shot hit. It wasn't a bullet. It was a spear, humming with that same disruptor frequency from the cove. It buried itself in the rock beside us, the vibration rattling my teeth. Down! Maya shouted. A second spear slammed into the ground on our other side, cutting off the exit. And then he was there. Caleb, stepping from the haze with 6 of his men, all armed with compact launchers. He smiled, calm as a priest. You've come far. Almost impressed. Ethan shifted to block me. We're not handing it over. Caleb didn't even look at him. His eyes were on me. Sarah, do you know what those spires can do if I push them hard enough? I said nothing. They'll tear the air out of your lungs, collapse the pressure around you until your own breath turns against you. He tapped the launcher in his hand. But I don't have to kill you. You can walk out of here alive if you bring me the device. My grip tightened on my pack. Not going to happen. His smile faded. Then we do it the hard way. He barked something in Synthonic, sharp and fast. The spires around us flared, their light shifting from pale silver to deep crimson. And then, silence. Not quiet, not muffled, silence. The kind that swallows everything whole. My breath still moved in my chest, but I couldn't hear it. Even the crunch of dust under my boots was gone. Maya's mouth was moving, but no sound reached me. Ethan pointed urgently to the cliffs above. Caleb's men were repositioning, cutting off every exit. The hollow zone. I'd heard of it, where the traps inverted their effect, not amplifying sound, but erasing it entirely. In here, there was no hearing, and no speaking, which meant no old tongue to counter them. Caleb raised his hand, signaling his men to advance. I looked at the spires. The light in them was pulsing in patterns, long, short, long, like code. It wasn't sound they were using anymore. It was light. If the traps were listening for Synthonic, maybe they could also be tricked by a different signal. Something older. I slung my pack off and pulled out the etched metal fragment the cliff elder had given me. The surface caught the red glow, and for a heartbeat, the patterns in the spires shifted, as if recognizing it. Maya saw me and pointed to the far end of the valley. A narrow cut in the rock, maybe wide enough for us to slip through if we could break the trap's hold. I pressed the fragment to the nearest spire. The metal warmed instantly, the etchings glowing faintly. My mind filled with the old tongue word the elder hadn't told me, just given. Thyron? I didn't hear it. But the spire did. Its red glow blinked once, then died. The others began to falter, one by one like candles in a wind. Caleb saw it too late. Maya grabbed my arm and we ran. Ethan covered us, hurling a rock at the nearest soldier before ducking through the cut in the rock. We scrambled over jagged stone until the red haze was gone, the air suddenly sharp and real again. Sound came rushing back all at once. The thud of our boots, our ragged breathing, Caleb's distant shouts echoing through the valley. We didn't stop until the path opened onto a ridge, the land beyond descending into a labyrinth of canyons. Maya bent over, hands on her knees. Okay, new rule, no more valleys. Ethan wiped the sweat from his face. We're still ahead of him, barely. I looked back at the ridge. The hollow zone shimmered in the distance, a patch of the world where even the wind dared not speak. And I knew Caleb wouldn't stop. The next time he came, it wouldn't be with silence. It would be with something worse. The canyons were nothing like the open Deadlands. Here, the world pressed in on all sides, walls of ochre stone rising so high the sunlight barely touched the ground. The air was cooler, but thick with a faint hum that made my teeth ache. We followed a narrow ledge along a canyon wall, the path sloping downward into shadow. Every few steps, the hum deepened, as if something massive was breathing through the rock itself. Maya checked her wrist reader. We're close to where the signal converges. The vault's access point should be somewhere below. Ethan scanned the ridges. I don't like this. Too many blind corners. I was about to agree when I saw the first one. At first, it looked like part of the canyon wall, a dark, jagged protrusion. Then it moved. The thing unfolded from the rock in a slow, deliberate motion. Its limbs were long and thin, plated in segmented metal that gleamed like wet stone. Where a face should have been, there was only a smooth mask with a single vertical slit of blue light. A tech hybrid. It turned its head toward me, and the slit pulsed faintly. Ethan swore under his breath. We're dead. The hybrid stepped forward, its movements eerily fluid, and the hum in the air sharpened into a tone that vibrated through my bones. Two more shapes detached from the walls above, landing soundlessly on the path ahead. We were surrounded. Maya held up her hands. We're not here to damage the vault. We just... The nearest hybrid's head snapped toward her, and the hum deepened. She clamped her mouth shut instantly. I remembered what Maya had said earlier. The hybrids weren't just machines. They were part of the vault's security, older than circuit lords, maybe older than Synthonic itself. If they were guarding the vault, maybe they could recognize more than just threats. I took a slow step forward. Varys Ethel, I said in Old Tongue. The blue slit brightened. For a moment, the hum wavered, almost like hesitation. Then the hybrid raised one hand. Its fingers unfolded into delicate jointed extensions, tracing a shape in the air, a circle with a line through it. I'd seen that symbol once before, on the fragment the Cliff Elder had given me. Carefully, I pulled the fragment from my pack and held it up. The etchings glowed faintly in the canyon's dim light. The hybrid froze. The other two shifted back slightly, their lights flickering in unison. Then the first one stepped aside. Maya's eyes widened. They're letting us through. We moved past them slowly, the hum in the air softening into something almost harmonic. As we reached the next bend in the canyon, the path opened into a chamber carved directly into the rock. At its center stood a great archway, its surface covered in the same etchings as my fragment. Beyond it was nothing but darkness, so deep it seemed to swallow the light around it. The hybrids took positions along the chamber's walls, their lights dimming until they were little more than faint glimmers. They were waiting, watching. Maya approached the arch, her fingers brushing the carvings. This is it, the vault entrance. The Nexus Code is inside. Ethan glanced back at the canyon. If the hybrids let us pass, does that mean we're safe? I shook my head. It means we've been judged. Not safe, just allowed. The hum in the air shifted again, lower this time, as if something deeper in the darkness had just awakened. I stepped toward the arch, the fragment warm in my hand. For a heartbeat, I thought I heard my mother's voice, soft, almost lost in the hum. Words are freedom. Then the darkness inside the arch rippled, like the surface of water. Whatever lay beyond wasn't just a room, it was a threshold. And once we crossed it, there would be no turning back. Crossing the arch felt like stepping through ice. The instant my foot hit the black surface, the world shifted. The canyon air was gone, replaced by a vast chamber that stretched in every direction, its floor and ceiling lost in shimmering darkness. Thin lines of light crisscrossed the space like a spider's web, humming faintly in colors I couldn't name. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "This isn't built. It's grown." Ethan reached out to touch one of the glowing strands, but it recoiled from his hand, curling away like a living thing. At the center of the chamber rose a column of shifting code, spiraling upward in translucent layers. Symbols danced across its surface, some Synthonic, some Old Tongue, and others I didn't recognize at all. And then a voice spoke. It wasn't sound. It was inside my head. Identity unknown. Access conditional. I staggered back, clutching my temples. Did you hear that?" Maya nodded slowly, eyes locked on the column. "It's the core AI, the Nexus itself. Query, purpose of entry." I swallowed. "To free language, to break Synthonic's control." The column's surface rippled, shifting symbols faster than my eyes could follow. "Warning, destruction of Synthonic network will result in loss of lexical coherence for 87% of global population." Maya stepped forward. "We can restore the old languages. We can rebuild." The AI's tone didn't change. "Rebuilding requires priming memory key. Location, personal cognitive archive of user Sarah Miller." A chill ran through me. "You mean my memories?" "Specific. Maternal memory set. Access grants full control. It wanted my memories of my mother. All of them." I hesitated, and that's when the chamber's darkness behind us split open. Caleb stepped through, flanked by two of his men. Somehow he'd made it past the hybrids. His gaze locked on the column. "Beautiful. All the power in the world, right here." The AI's voice shifted slightly, as if tasting his presence. "Identity. Caleb Vance. Access denied." Caleb smirked. "We'll see about that." He lifted a device from his belt, a lattice of silver rods humming with energy, and hurled it toward the column. The strands of light around us convulsed, some snapping under the pulse. The AI's tone hardened. "Security breach detected." From the darkness above, shapes began to descend. Tech hybrids, but altered, their limbs longer, eyes burning with white fire. Maya grabbed my arm. "Sarah, the core will lock down if Caleb destabilizes it. You have to make the choice now." I looked at the column. My mother's face flickered there for an instant, just an echo, smiling the way she had when I was small. Caleb's men opened fire on the hybrids, the air filling with streaks of violet energy. One hybrid fell, but another tore a launcher from a soldier's hands and crushed it like paper. Ethan moved to block Caleb's path, but Caleb swung the disruptor device at him, knocking him back into a strand of light. Ethan cried out as the strand wrapped around his arm, pulsing. "Sarah," he shouted. "Do it! Don't let him take it." The AI's voice was inside me again. "Confirm, memory set transfer, irreversible." My chest tightened. If I said yes, every laugh, every story, every word my mother had given me would vanish from my mind. I would never hear her voice again, not even in dreams. But the alternative was Caleb, and a world with only one language, his language. I took a breath and spoke the word. Yes. The column flared, streams of light pouring into me. I felt the memories slipping away, her voice, the scent of her hands when she held me, the warmth of her embrace. Each one dissolved into a blinding current that surged back into the core. When the light dimmed, I was empty in a way I couldn't name. The AI's voice was calm. "Priming complete. Full access granted. Synthonic control network dismantling initiated." All around us, the strands of light shifted from cold white to warm gold. Caleb screamed in fury, swinging his device at the column again, but this time the hybrid surged forward, pulling him down. Maya caught me as my knees gave out. "Sarah, you did it." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Somewhere inside me, the absence where my mother had been was vast and silent. But outside, the world's words were finally free. The vault shuddered as the last threads of Synthonic's network unraveled. Golden strands of code collapsed into motes of light, drifting upward until they vanished into the dark. Somewhere far above us, the sound of static faded into silence. The tech hybrids withdrew from Caleb, leaving him slumped on the floor. His disruptor device lay twisted beside him, useless. Maya was already pulling me toward the arch. "We have to get out before the vault resets." Ethan staggered to his feet, his right arm still marked with faint lines from where the strand had wrapped around him. He gave me a quick, pained smile. "Go. I'll hold them off." "No." I grabbed his sleeve. "You're coming with us." He shook his head, glancing at the hybrids, who were closing in again. Not on us, but on Caleb and his men. If they see all three of us as a unit, they might not let you through. I'll distract them. Maya's voice was sharp. Ethan? But he was already moving, drawing one of Caleb's fallen weapons. He fired into the far wall, the light blast echoing like thunder. The hybrids turned instantly, two of them leaping toward him. I saw the moment he knew he wouldn't make it out. And still, he smiled at me. Tell them I wasn't all bad, silent girl. The hybrid struck. The golden light swallowed him before I could reach him. Maya's grip on my arm was iron. Sarah, we have to go. I stumbled through the arch, the cold bite of the threshold snapping the chamber away. We emerged into the canyon, the hum now gone. The air felt lighter, and when I spoke, just a whisper, it wasn't in Synthonic. It was in the language my mother had once sung to me, a word for safe. Maya closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. It's happening. The old tongues are coming back. In the days that followed, the change spread like wildfire. Across the drowned coastlines, over the fractured plains, words long forbidden began to surface in voices young and old. People whispered them at first, then shouted, sang, painted them on walls. Languages bloomed in every corner. The circuit lords dissolved without Synthonic to bind their power. Caleb was taken by the hybrids, his fate unknown. I stayed in the coastal settlement, at least for a while. We turned the old trade hall into a learning space, teaching any language anyone remembered. Maya taught coding patterns alongside ancient dialects. Children ran between the benches, switching tongues mid-sentence without fear. They started calling me the voice breaker. I didn't correct them. But at night, when the tide whispered against the seawall, I felt the hollow space inside me where my mother's voice used to live. I told myself the silence was worth it. Weeks later, Maya found me on the rooftop, watching the northern horizon. The wind carried something strange, sharp bursts of sound, repeating at irregular intervals. She handed me a listening device. Picked this up an hour ago, not Synthonic, not anything in our databases. I pressed it to my ear. The pattern wasn't random. It was speech, a language I didn't know. And in the middle of it, one word. Clear. Calling. My name. Maya watched my face. If you go north, you might not come back. I smiled faintly. When has that ever stopped me? The next morning, I packed light. A compass, some rations, my mother's AI device. Empty now, but still warm in my palm. As I walked beyond the seawall, the wind shifted, carrying the strange northern words again. They were waiting for me, just beyond the edge of the known world. And this time, I would answer.